you've got to think about it. You've got to take a view of the end-to-end experience. So you can't just look at it from a point of view when they're in, what am I doing? So what is the value proposition for when I have an independent within my organization? You've got to think about it end-to-end from how do I build a brand, and how do I communicate with these individuals? How do I find them? How do I assess them? How do I create an attractive business for them to want to work in? So everything from a job description versus a brief for an independent may need to be looked differently. The sources of how you find these individuals, how you assess them, I think is a really big one. So independent talent by nature is a dynamic market. Top independent talent, well, in general, if you engage them, you need to secure them within 2 weeks, probably. Otherwise, the next project opportunity takes them. So a 1 month or 2 month assessment process for an independent doesn't work. You know, putting them through rounds and rounds of interviews and tests. And
you can't put them
studies
through your normal recruitment process.
You can't do that. It doesn't work. One, because they have huge confidence in their skill sets. So in a way, they're willing to jump through a few hoops, but they won't jump through too many if they have many other opportunities. So they have high confidence in their skill. They've got choice, and they don't have time, because actually, if you think about from their perspective, if I hold off on other opportunities and wait for you for 6 weeks and you decide no, or something changes, the opportunity cost is significant to me.
Because they're not paid.
They're not paid. Yeah. Well, while they're being assessed by you, they're not getting paid for that time, right? And they're not in an existing job, potentially, right? If they're independent, they're available. So you have to understand their situation when you're looking at your assessment processes. You have to look at how you find them, how you attract them. So that's the first thing. Then you look at, okay, onboarding, right? So I've managed to create a value proposition where an independent wants to work with me. I've created a great assessment process that aligns to the needs of this different individual. And that assessment process is assessing them on the right things, right? As opposed to assessing them on a JD, you might want to assess them based on actually what is the work that you want them to do, and do they have the skills and capability to do it. Okay, so you've got through all of that, then you have to think about onboarding, right? So that's then looking at, do I want to put them through, again, a 3-month cycle of computer-based trainings and courses and things like that? Do I want them to start adding value from day one? So how many, again, of those internal processes as part of onboarding do I need to put them through? Things like getting them set up for payments and getting them a laptop and getting them access to systems. As an independent with a different contractual model, some organizations really struggle with that. You know, how do I actually give this person access to systems, because they're not a permanent employee? They're set up as maybe a vendor in our system, like a procurement individual, right? Or they're not on our traditional payroll. So things like that you think would be very easy and very simple become very difficult for big organizations to think about, especially on the security of data, on hardware issuance, getting them set up even for things like booking meetings, printing. Those sorts of things actually really disrupt independence in organization when they can't get things done. And they can't use the infrastructure. So I think as part of onboarding, again, you need to think about, hey, this individual is set up differently in our organization, potentially seen in a different risk spectrum by the organization. So how do I get them set up in a way that they can still be productive from day one? So a lot of that stuff needs to be actually sorted out before they join. When an independent comes into your organization, I think one of the shocks that organizations find is that they are actually driven from day one to just start going at the work, right? So their focus is on coming in, executing, no time wasting. So they'll actually drive organizations quite hard in terms of where is this information, how do I get to speak to this individual? And so having someone responsible for getting the best out of that individual, getting the best out of that scope of work, and setting that person up for success is, again, I think, a really important thing.
So a clearly defined person who's kind of responsible for making sure that it's all kind of there for the independent.
Yeah.